There's been plenty of chatter in motorcycle industry news about the recent unveiling of the 2025 SOUO S2000 touring bike from China. In as many words, some are suggesting it could be a Honda Goldwing slayer. Since I often make videos about Goldwings, I figured I'd jump on the bandwagon and offer my 2 cents. The Goldwing is considered by many to be the best touring bike money can buy. It's been around since 1975 and had evolved through 6 generations by 2018. Although there have been plenty of contenders for the touring bike throne, it's fair to say that none have yet toppled the King of Kings, as Honda started calling a Goldwing in 1974. And if you watch this channel, you'll know that I feel the Goldwing deserves that title. But all good things come to an end, and even kings cannot escape that truism. So there just might come a day when the Goldwing is finally toppled. And when I first read about the SOUO, I wondered if that day had arrived. There's no question this new bike is aimed directly at the Goldwing buyer. They even tagged the letters GL onto the model name of one variant. It's a clear shot across the bow from the Chinese motorcycle industry, and with China's industrial might, it's a shot that everyone should take seriously. There's not much detail available on the SOUO yet, but what we see on paper looks impressive. An 8-cylinder, horizontally opposed 2000cc engine, double wishbone front suspension, an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission, with all the comforts and gadgets you'd expect to find on a modern touring bike. And I believe it's not terrible looking. If imitation is flattery, the design of this bike flatters not only the Goldwing, but also Yamahas, Harleys, and others. On the surface, it definitely looks like it could threaten the Goldwing's dominance of the segment. But does it have the folks at Honda quaking in their boots? The Goldwing has been Big Red's flagship motorcycle for nearly 5 decades, so they should want to defend its King of the Hill status with vigor. And just like any global business, the motorcycle market is an ever-shifting landscape. The challenges of today are different from those coming around the corner tomorrow, and even if you've won the latest battle, the war never ends. But Honda enjoys many advantages owing to its decades in the global market. For starters, it's fair to say Goldwing is established as a premium brand. It takes time for any product to earn premium brand status, during which it has to consistently deliver on its premium claims. In the touring bike market, that means it must earn a reputation for carrying its owners many reliable, comfortable miles, day after day, year after year. The Goldwing is known for nothing if not for that. Any competitor entering the touring bike market will need some time to achieve that status, no matter how good their product might be. If and when the SOUO hits the US market, we can expect to see plenty more so-called reviews by so-called journalists who've been flown to some 5-star resort to ride the newest model through scenic mountain passes and be regaled on its virtues over a long weekend of steak and lobster. Heck, sometimes even credible reviewers like a product that's an obvious disaster. But the real test will be by thousands of people like you and me who want a big touring bike and decide to take a leap with the new kid on the block sometime in the future. Since we're all so connected these days, anyone with the interest will quickly find out how those real-world tests are panning out. If the quality isn't there from day one, achieving that premium brand status will take much, much longer. The SOUO is a product of Chinese conglomerate Great Wall Motors. As the world's 19th largest car maker, this is no small startup. They surely have the resources to do any amount of research, engineering, and testing it might take to build a good motorcycle. But I believe that only gets a product so far, because the laboratory and the real world are never the same. Honda has the advantage of 75 years of motorcycle manufacturing and racing experience. In particular, the Goldwing's design is well known to have evolved from decades of customer feedback. Honda has learned a great deal about motorcycling and motorcyclists that isn't written in any engineering textbook. It's possible for someone to reverse engineer any part, but they might not always know why it was designed that way. And I'd argue that if you don't fully understand the problem a product's designers were trying to solve, you can't improve on that product yourself. And you'll never truly be ahead of the competition if you merely copy their designs. Another of Honda's strong advantages of incumbency is its well-established dealer and parts distribution network. In North America, still the primary touring bike market, you don't have to go far to find a Honda dealer. The company has been building that network since 1959. Here in Eastern Canada, my local dealer is only minutes away and they can get me almost any part within a couple of days. The availability of parts and service are not small considerations for the touring biker, who can easily envision themselves being far from home in the middle of nowhere when they have that dreaded breakdown. To my knowledge, GWM hasn't established a presence in North America, so they have some work to do. I suppose they could try the Tesla approach by cutting local dealers out of the business and selling directly to customers. But when you're far from home in the middle of nowhere, would you be comforted by the knowledge that should you need some obscure part, you'll have to order it from Alibaba and install it yourself? Honda's strongest advantage of incumbency is its brand. In making some of my other videos, I've done a fair bit of research on the history of the Honda Motor Company, and I know its founder Soichiro Honda always believed innovation was a necessary means of survival. He insisted that their products be known for outperforming and being more reliable than the competition. Since those two goals are usually at odds, the only way to achieve them both is to do things differently than everyone else. Honda has made many game-changing products over the years, all of which have sprung from this philosophy. Admittedly, I have a bias for the Honda brand, but I'm one of many millions. That bias isn't blind faith, because I've been happy with all the Honda products I've owned. As any marketer will tell you, Honda's brand status is possibly its most valuable asset. A new market entrant will need time to create that kind of widespread positive perception. But it can happen, and has happened. We only need to look at how the Japanese motorcycle makers helped end the British brands in the 1970s, and if not for protectionist tariffs, one big US brand wouldn't have survived the 80s. Anyone who lived through the early 1970s knows that most North Americans considered Japanese cars of that era to be junk. Granted, they weren't always great cars, but I think they would have had to overcome that stigma no matter how good they might have been. Japanese engineers were taught quality control after World War II by American mathematician W. Edwards Deming. Turns out they were very good students, and they just kept improving their products. By the 1990s, the likes of Toyota and Honda had US automakers on the ropes, because the Americans had skipped a few of Professor Deming's classes. And I don't think anyone could objectively label most Japanese products as junk nowadays. Similarly, if you were one of those early adopters who bought a Hyundai Pony when they were first available in North America in the 1980s, you were likely on the receiving end of more than a few jokes about how long it would take to self-destruct. But you probably had the last laugh. And now Hyundai is a respected brand with strong customer loyalty. Of course, that didn't happen overnight. I think it's fair to say that most of the Western world sees today's Chinese products as being of lower quality. And that perception is fair when we have so many of their cheap goods available online and on the shelves of dollar stores and Walmarts on practically every city block. But I'm willing to bet the Chinese are also students of Professor Deming's lessons on quality control. And they're clearly fast learners. So it's realistic to expect them to do the same thing the Japanese and Koreans have done before them. That will take time. Probably less time than we think. Reportedly, the Chinese auto industry is already larger than that of the US and EU combined. Chinese automakers aren't a future threat to other manufacturers, they're a clear and present danger. So it would be foolhardy of Honda and others not to see Chinese motorcycle manufacturers in the same light, especially in the growing market of China itself. The Chinese are already making innovative products, and their quality will continually improve. And if the SOUO were to enter Western markets at, say, 2/3 the price of a Goldwing, it could be a serious threat from the start. On one hand, a lower price would take away from that premium brand image that a Goldwing killer would need, but on the other hand, many people would be quite happy to have a bike that's maybe 80% as good as a Goldwing at 2/3 the price. So is the SOUO a Goldwing slayer? I don't think it is. Yet. I do think Chinese bikes will become global contenders in the future. But for the reasons I mentioned earlier, that will take some time, especially in the touring segment. As I said, I'd expect Honda to fiercely protect the market status of its flagship motorcycle. But they'll need to put all of their know-how into keeping their king on his throne. They'll face ever-increasing market pressure, not only on price but also on innovation, while the quality gap will be closing every day. Hopefully that means even better bikes for you and me in the future. So there you have my 2 cents on whether this new bike signals the end of the Goldwing. Feel free to leave yours in the comments below. Thanks for watching.